To embrace the parts of ourselves we've long ignored is not just a psychological act, it's a sacred one. It is the quiet beginning of a profound spiritual awakening. When we begin the journey inward, we are not escaping the world, but finally stepping fully into it. This is the path of wholeness. This is the path of the shadow. John Marklin was not a household name, but in the world of depth psychology, his legacy runs deep. A student of myth, mysticism, and Jungian thought, his life was marked by quiet revelations and hard-won insight. At 17, John nearly died in a drowning accident. What he experienced wasn't terror, but an overwhelming peace, a silence so deep it felt infinite. In those moments before he was rescued, he saw a radiant light that enveloped everything, and a voice that told him, "There is more to see." When he was pulled out, coughing and gasping, the vision vanished. The pain of returning to life after tasting eternity haunted him for years. But instead of turning away from the world, John turned inward, and in the quiet corners of the psyche, he found his purpose. John's struggle was not unique. Like many of us, he faced the tensions between the life society asks of us and the life our soul quietly longs for. For years, he lived a split existence, outwardly successful, inwardly unraveling. Eventually, he found guidance not in modern culture, but in ancient symbols and inner work. He recalled a mentor once telling him, "You do not have to be known by the world. You only have to be known by yourself." That single sentence changed the direction of his life. It wasn't about achievement, but integration. One of his most enduring contributions to psychological philosophy was his exploration of the shadow, a term borrowed from Jung. The shadow is not evil. It is simply what is unseen. It is the part of you you refuse to look at, and in refusing to see it, you give it power. In our time, we place enormous value on light, on happiness, success, positivity. We are taught from early childhood to put our best foot forward, to show our strengths and bury our doubts. But what happens to those buried parts? They don't disappear. They wait. They gather weight in the corners of the soul until they begin to influence our behavior in ways we don't understand. The shadow is not a monster. The shadow is a part of you longing to be seen. If you are someone who has ever lashed out unexpectedly, sabotaged a good opportunity, or felt an inexplicable shame or sadness, you have touched your shadow. We all have one. It follows us, not like a curse, but like a reminder. Like gravity, it pulls us back toward what we have disowned. John used to say, "The parts of ourselves we disown will find their way back to us, either through projection or possession." What he meant is simple. If we don't consciously recognize our anger, it might erupt at someone we love. If we deny our sensitivity, we may resent it in others. The shadow is relational. What we bury, we end up projecting onto the world. Yet, the shadow isn't just the place of our darkness. It is the storehouse of our gold. In those hidden parts lie our unexpressed creativity, our untapped courage, our forgotten dreams. To face the shadow is not to plunge into despair, but to reclaim our lost inheritance. Culture wants you to conform. And in conforming, you discard anything that doesn't fit the image you're trying to project. But your psyche keeps the receipts. Everything you abandon for the sake of approval goes into the shadow. Your defiance, your vulnerability, even your joy. John once shared the story of a woman who spent her life as a caretaker. She was loved and admired by all, seen as a saint. But inside, she was filled with quiet rage, not because she hated caring for others, but because no one had ever cared for her, and she had never asked. Her shadow was her unmet need, and it only began to heal when she dared to express it. To bring light to the shadow is to begin the work of wholeness, and that work starts with radical honesty. Ask yourself, What am I hiding? What am I afraid others might see? What parts of myself do I find unacceptable? The answers may not come easily, but the act of asking is the start. Most people spend their lives trying to escape their shadow. But the paradox is, your shadow is the path to your soul. The deeper you go, the more you find what is real. Jung taught that the journey of adulthood is not about building a better mask, but removing it entirely. The first half of life is about identity, image, and ambition. The second half is about integration, surrender, and simplicity. Not less of you, but more of you. He once likened the soul to a forest. In the day, it seems safe and manageable, but at night, the trees become unfamiliar, the paths uncertain. Yet it is in that darkness that the ancient wisdom lives. The shadow is not the enemy of the self. It is the beginning of the self. When we deny our pain, we deny our depth. When we deny our flaws, we deny our fullness. Real healing doesn't come from becoming perfect. It comes from becoming whole. And wholeness requires that we make peace with every part of us, even the parts we've tried to hide. The modern world offers endless distractions to keep us from ourselves. Social media, status games, curated identities. But beneath all that noise is the quiet voice of the soul asking to be heard. That voice will not shout, it will whisper, and the shadow is how it speaks. To walk this path is not easy. It requires courage. Not the courage to fight, but the courage to feel, to sit with discomfort, to admit what we don't know, to forgive what we are not proud of. But those who do this work find something more valuable than confidence. They find authenticity. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, not who you pretend to be, not who you wish you were, but who you already are, beneath the fear, beneath the shame, beneath the shadow." John Marklin passed away in his 80s, peacefully and, by all accounts, fulfilled. He never sought fame, but his students speak of him with reverence. He gave them permission to be real, to be flawed, to be human. So if you're listening to this and you feel the weight of unspoken parts, take heart. You are not broken. You are unfinished, and the shadow is not the sign of your failure. It is the invitation to your wholeness. Own your shadow, and you will find your gold. Face your darkness, and you will reclaim your light. That is the work. That is the journey.